Hi, everybody. I'm Audrey Moore with Audrey Helps Actors, and this is episode number 30. Dirty 30. Getting so nerdy about your acting career. First, we're going to do some shout-outs on iTunes. We got C.S. Paldy 1, Marzipant, Dylan Axe, Rachel Drum, and Acting Genius. Thanks so much for these iTunes reviews. My favorite one, I don't know where it is, but they said, and shout out to Jesse. He's so handsome. He is, you guys. This is my mission for you this week. I love the iTunes reviews, but this is what I want. I want you to post about the podcast on social media. Even if you've done it before, even if you've done it lots of times before. Here's what I want you to do. Are you in a place right now where you could just pause whatever you're doing, washing dishes, whatever it is, pull over on the side of the road safely. Don't get killed. It's not worth it. But whatever you're doing, if you can safely take a little screenshot of you listening to the podcast, do a little shout out and say, guys, you should listen to this podcast. It's super dope. And then you should tag me in it so that I know that you're doing it, because I like affirmation because I'm an actor. So Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, whatever it is, I'm on everything. Audrey Helps Actors. So today we have Ethan Crenshaw on. Ethan, sweet, lovely, wonderful, very tall Ethan. We talk about his career. We talk a lot about casting. This is a leveling up episode. Ethan is a phase 1 actor, and we also talk a lot about the concept that you're not behind, which if you're an actor at any stage, I can assure you, you suffer from the struggle of feeling like you're behind in your career. That's the magic, is it doesn't even matter if you've got 6 series and you started when you were 7. You're comparing yourself to somebody else who has 7 series and started when they were 4. That's just the way that this magical journey goes. So if you have a second, what I really recommend you doing is in your podcast, when you're listening to it, like in what's called the show notes, which is like, it says Audrey Helps Actors, episode number 30, Ethan Crenshaw. And then it has like a little paragraph below. So those are the show notes. And there's going to be a link to Ethan's IMDb page so that you can see what his headshots look like. We talk a lot about them. Just get a like physical sense of what he looks like so that you have some images in your head, because we're going to be talking a lot about not just his headshots, but his type and what that type means as far as casting that he should be focusing on with his look, his reels, his package, basically. I said his package, you guys. All right, you guys. I hope you're on your way to an audition. Go book that job. Audrey helps actors because they don't know anything. Hi, everybody. I'm Audrey Moore with Audrey Helps Actors, and today we have
Ethan Crenshaw.
Yay, Ethan's finally here.
I am. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
This is exciting, right?
Yeah, it is. So Ethan reached out to me many moons ago. Those of you guys who listened to Jeremy Radin's podcast, we talked about Ethan. Ethan is a student of Jeremy, who's no longer teaching there, I guess, but
yeah,
you were studying with Jeremy, and you had been listening to the podcast, and you guys were like, please, can we get her on? And
yeah.
I was like, please. So I came and visited your class, and then you reached out in sort of very typical actor panic. I get lots of actor panic emails. They're sort of my favorites. Let's let everyone know a little bit about yourself.
Yeah.
So how long have you been studying acting?
So I moved to LA when I was 18 and went to AMDA, the American Musical and Dramatic Academy. And I got a BFA in musical theater. And I was there, you know, the whole program is like a 4-year program condensed if you don't take any breaks to like 2 years,
right?
And so I did that. And then kind of afterward, I sort of just like floundered for a while, maybe for like 5 years, just not knowing the difference between like networking and partying. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
And so now I've been kind of like more focused in the last like year and a half. So like total training time, like 3-4 years.
Okay, good. And would you say your pursuit, you have an agent, right?
I have a commercial agent.
You have a commercial agent. And so let's talk, how long have you like legitimately, you say, pursued acting as a profession?
For the last year and a half. Like,
okay, great.
With like absolute fervor.
Yeah, with like focus.
Yeah.
Right? Not like, hey, I'm hanging out with this famous person, so I also feel famous.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
No, I know all about that game. I don't know that game because I didn't play it, but I had lots of friends who did. It's a very common game, you guys.
I'm like, if I go to this party that I think maybe Ron Howard might be at or something, like obviously it'll just happen like serendipitously.
He's gonna like magically see you and be like, do you want to be in this amazing movie? How long did it take you to get this commercial agent?
So the current agent that I'm with was actually my very first agent out of college.
Okay.
Who I signed with from like a referral.
Okay.
Never booked anything with him at the first agency.
Yes.
And he moved and dropped all of his clients.
Ah, I see.
And I was like, whatever, I'll find another one.
You're like, I'm partying, so whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
I'm kind of busy. So
right.
I jumped around a couple different agencies, got one that got me out a lot commercially, but never booked anything with them either.
Uh-huh.
And then he became a partner at a new firm, and we were sort of like in contact again because I was asking him for some advice, and he was like, well, I've just signed on as a partner at this agency.
Okay.
Would you like to sign with me? And I was like, yeah, totally.
Yeah, sure.
For
okay.
sure.
And how long ago was that?
That was in late 2017, like October, November.
Okay. So you've been with them like 6-ish months.
Yeah.
Okay. And in those 6-ish months, how many auditions do you feel like you've gotten?
I've gotten about 20.
Okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
And
sometimes I get some for myself, which is why I like it's a little hazy.
Yeah,
but
I understand. Because like you're doing self-submission and stuff like that, and they just go through him.
Yeah, exactly.
And are you union yet?
No.
Great. Do you have a reel?
I am working on it. Those famous last words, right?
Yes, okay.
But
no,
with your advice.
Yes. Yeah. Well, part of what we're going to talk about is like this eager actor syndrome that happens. And why I'm really excited to talk about you is that those who know me best can assure you that I am certainly cut from the same cloth. I mean, I suffered from overeager actor syndrome the majority of my career. And it is quite anxiety-ridden experience. So what I first want to say to you is that you're working very properly. And I know you've heard me say that to other people on this podcast. I wouldn't say it if it weren't true.
I believe that.
Yes, I believe you believe that. And it sounds like you may have some like, I'm behind.
That's one of my highlighted questions down here.
I'm behind-itis, which is, like senioritis, except you're like suffering from feeling like you're constantly behind. Yeah. And that might be because you took some time to, live your early mid-20s. Yeah. And that happens. And the good news is that I'm here to tell you about your casting is that your casting is only going to get better as you mature. That was
my inclination.
Yes, which was also true for me. So that's part of why I was never like panicked in sort of the age category. So we're going to talk a little bit about your casting. And first of all, I want to get into this email that you sent me because I think everyone's going to really relate to it. So Ethan, felt like he wasn't getting enough auditions, as many of you feel. So then he talked to his reps and they said new headshots. So then you went and got new headshots. You also just had this sort of general feeling like it was maybe all taking too long. So you said also, and I realize this is a slightly more existential question, is this all seemingly usual or unusual to you? I have no wavering passion or drive to continue this Odyssean-level journey, but I can't help but feel as though my wheels are spinning. Friends of mine seem to have a little more luck and a little less struggle booking or even getting auditions in the first place. The magic question is, am I missing something or is it simply not my time yet? That is the magic question everyone is always asking themselves, just so you know, no matter what stage you're at in your career. And that, to me, was probably when I learned that no matter what stage you're at in your career, you always are going to feel that way. I began a 3-month-long journey into deep depression because I had always felt like I was going to get to some place. Right. And I would feel like, nah, I'm working properly. And because I'm working properly, things will work out for me. And that's just not what you're really getting in a career in the field of acting in the same way that you are maybe in other fields. And it's part of what makes the acting career really exciting is that at any moment, anything can happen. But also really depressing and really aggravating is that because of no reasons, nothing can happen.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And you just never know. And so we'll talk about a few things. First of all, let's start with this, like comparing yourself to other people. So just for those of you who are in phase 1, like Ethan is, once you're in it long enough, what you're going to discover is that, yes, there are people who seem to be like really ahead and getting like a lot of clicks when you're seeming like to just be twiddling your thumbs or spinning your wheels, as you put it. And what happens is you'll start to see the more years you put into it that's always shifting and cycling. And so in the beginning, people who are doing really well think that they're like extra special and they're like doing things correctly because they're just so extra special. And the reason they may be doing a little bit better than a particular person might have to do with their casting at that age. I always say, like, when you pop is really when your age and your essence and your look all start to sync up.
Right.
Some people that syncs up at 22 and some people that syncs up at 46 and some people that's somewhere in between. Some people start at age 5. So what are you going to do? But it can also be trends. The example I've been using for trends is about polyester. Like if you go to a costume shop and you look at the 70s, it's so weird. Every garment is polyester.
Yeah.
And if you look before and you look after, it's like no polyester. But something happened in the 70s. I don't know what it is. It was like only polyester, all polyester, everywhere polyester.
Right. Like a cotton shortage
like,
somewhere.
I don't understand. It's freaky and weird. I just dare you to go to like Western costumes, look through everything, then hit the 70s, all polyester, and then
just like slides off.
and then it just slides off, never to be seen again. So it's like if you are selling polyester at a particular time where polyester is in, then you're going to have some heat. But then what may happen is 10 years may go by and polyester is out and you are out and all the judgments that actor made as somebody that felt that they were just sort of like extra special and doing everything correctly, every judgment that they had against the people who were sort of lagging then comes to bite them in the ass as they start to feel really bad about themselves. So what I started to do in changing my particular mind shift was when somebody's doing well, not to envy or cheer them too much. Because it's easy for us to feel like I'm doing well, I'm doing something right. Or I'm not doing well, I'm doing something wrong. And have the same point of view for other people. So particularly in phase 1, you start to feel like when somebody's doing really well, everyone sort of like looks to that person and is like, what are you doing? And how can I drink your special sauce? You know, like it looks so great. And then when somebody's not doing well, that especially when you think they should be, then it feels like everyone sort of judges that person as like, oh, well, they just don't have their shit together or whatever. Both are not helpful.
Right.
Because when you are holding up the person who's doing well so high, you're sort of giving the credit to their success to things that are in their control.
Right.
And that may not be true. And the truth is you probably don't know enough about them and their journey, and particularly if you're phase 1, really about the business, to know why that may or may not be right now. And you will have perspective on it in like 5 years, but you don't right now.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's easy to think that like the person who's really like kicking ass is doing something right, like in their control, because none of us have the experience to know that that's
what
not
that
the
is.
case.
Yes, exactly.
Necessarily.
No, absolutely. And I think that if you can point to something that's easy, like you can point to something like, oh, well, they've been doing it already for 15 years, then that's sort of easy. But when it seems like you're both kind of like on the same level or in the same zone, that's when it gets unhealthy. And what I will say, twofold, as I have grown in this career, I've noticed people who have that sort of comparing to other people that they felt like they were on the same level and path with. A lot of those actors who've done the comparing thing and they don't feel like they're doing well, they quit. And it's simply because they've been spending all their energy comparing And it really kills you inside. It like kills the artist.
That was apparent in the first few episodes that you did of the podcast. You know, the people that were talking very legitimately about, you know, the notion of quitting or, you know, like taking a break from it or whatever. I feel like it totally perpetuated by like looking at other people's journeys and
comparing that to your own. And I'm not asking you guys to be inhuman. I'm just asking you to just like take Audrey's advice on this. Take my word for it. It'll become a little bit clearer. Just ease up a little bit. I'm not asking you to be sunshines and rainbows all the time. Just ask yourself, is this helpful? And also, one of my favorite things to do as an actor is to ask myself, what do I really know? Because as actors, we're like imagination creators and we tell ourselves lies. We just tell ourselves lies. And it's part of like the professional art of it is telling yourself a lie to make you believe it.
Like, those jeans look really good on you.
Yeah, they look so good on you. You're so beautiful.
Glowing today.
Yes, exactly. You're definitely not bloated from the pizza last night. You look amazing. Yeah, exactly. So then when you're in the experience of pursuing the profession, my favorite example is like when my friends leave an audition and they're in panic because they just feel like it went bad. And so they call me. I get lots of those phone calls, you guys.
I can imagine.
Like, Audrey, I'm in panic.
With
and it was
special
bad.
ringtone for panic calls.
I wish they had like a panic button. I'd be like, call me in 20 when you've calmed down. No, so they call me with some panic and I say to them, well, here's the thing. What do you actually know? Like, you have imagined the scenario where it went so poorly that you should just end your life, like right now. Like you should just kill yourself today, right? Because that's how we are. We're really dramatic. And I'm like, but what you really know is actually that you felt a little uncomfortable, that you didn't feel maybe as on the ball with maybe your lines or something like that, but you didn't actually watch it. And you don't know who came in or went in comparison to you. And you really don't know how it went. That's just the truth, you guys. You don't know how it went. I hate to tell you, but like you don't know how it went. And the reason I know that you don't know how it went is like 9 times out of 10, when the person calls me in complete panic about how disastrous it was, they're on a veil, they booked it, they're pinned, they have no idea what happened. So if you're comparing yourself to another actor, do you know their stats? No. Do you know what they're actually booking? No. Do actors lie all the time? Yes.
Absolutely.
Are they lying to you? You don't know. Are they maybe booking a certain amount of jobs in a certain ratio because of some casting thing that they have figured out that you don't at this moment, or they have an advantage of that you don't at this moment? Maybe. But unless you're talking about somebody, you guys, who looks exactly like you, has an essence almost exactly like you, who is like your same height, your same weight, your same skin tone, all of that, and then you've been in it for the exact same amount of time, it's just destructive. Now, I do believe in having people that motivate you. Like, it's good to have
a pace car.
Yeah. It's good to have like a couple of actors. Like, I have a couple that really motivate / inspire me. And when I'm looking at them, I'm like, gosh, man, they are just crushing it. And it really like fires me up when I'm feeling like a little bit downtrodden. But what it actually does for me, and this is maybe a good trick, you guys, is I'm like, if they can do it, I can do it. Like, they're not more unique. They're not more special than me. We're all uniquely special and fabulous. And that's what's so great about the career right now is everybody is in, right? All types are in. So I just am like, well, if they've got all that, then I can have all that.
I think that's an interesting like personality difference between like you, like a successful, you know, someone who I think has reached a certain level of success and has that type of personality that sees this industry not as just like happenstance, but as something that you can actually put work into.
You can impinge.
And you have some control about how you're going to get indoors and make things happen, rather than a lot of people, I think, including myself sometimes, not all the time, but like look at it as just like hands up in the air, like, as long as I stand here, something might happen, but there's nothing else I can do,
Right. Well, I think part of what happens is that there is just so much emphasis put on the craft of acting and so little emphasis put on the business side of acting. And I understand that. And what I just try to say to people is that it's the same creative process. I know I say this all the time, but just like you're working on a scene in class, and it just doesn't feel like it's working. And you work it like a little bit more, and then this line clicks. And once that line clicks, that like inspires you to think about like maybe you're going to wear this kind of outfit. And that's not how it was written, but you feel like if you're going to play it, you're going to wear this kind of outfit. And then you wear this kind of outfit. And then your scene partner sees you and you're like, oh, that's where you're going? Oh, that's cool. Because then maybe we do it over here and I'll wear this kind of outfit and it's more this dynamic. And before you know it, like over time, you've not just solve the scene, but you solve the scene for you and your partner in a way that is creative and exciting and fulfilling. And that is the creative process.
Totally.
So that creative process is the same process of building your career. So you're starting and you're like, I don't know, how is it that I go out for auditions that are going to pay me enough to make a living? How does that happen? Well, you find out, what am I missing? What do some people have figured out that I don't have? So we'll talk about reel. We'll talk about headshots. We'll talk about proper representation. Also skill. All these things are things that you have to sort of not just figure out in the way that somebody might just like learn lines and think that that's acting. But figure out for you. So that it becomes like a fun and interesting and exciting and also heartbreaking. Like, when you can't get a scene, like you just want to throw yourself off the balcony, right?
It like hurts a little bit.
It hurts. Yeah. You're just so ashamed of yourself, right? Like, why is this one killing me?
Yeah.
And that's the creative process though. And that's also true for your career is you're going to have times where you're just like, I just don't know. Like, I don't know how to solve this.
Yeah.
And you just sit in the I don't know for a while and you sort of come at it from one angle and you come at it from the other angle, just like in acting, you guys. And like, that doesn't work. And that doesn't work. And then you go to your acting teacher and you're like, I just think this part is just not working for me. And then you play around a little bit more and you find it. Right? That's the creative process of building a career.
It's something that I've been learning as I've been becoming more focused and, like being in a scene study class that I really value, and then listening to a podcast like this, which I feel is just like a thesaurus of knowledge, or I guess an encyclopedia, right?
Either
Not
way.
a thesaurus. It's a 2-in-1 book.
Both, that's right. That's right.
You flip it over and
it's all on the internet now anyway, right? Just a computer of knowledge, you guys.
Exactly. Instead of having headshots that, like you said, is just like, this is my favorite shirt, so I'm going to put this in my headshot because, like, the casting director will love it too. You know? And, like, realizing that, like, these aren't your senior photos. Like, this is, it's like a business card, essentially, for the acting world. And, like, and becoming keen on that aspect being something that you do have control over. And then you have to hone in on like, well, what is going to serve me best, to have in that, rather than just like, this is a cool blue shirt because I have blue eyes and my mom told me I should always wear blue.
Oh God, that's everything, you guys. That's like what every actor, especially male actors, comes in. It's like, my mom says I look good in blue, so here's my blue shirt that she bought me for Christmas.
I think about that every day. I'm like, I kill in blue, you guys. I kill in blue.
I just love it. Well, what I love about all of you said is it's all correct. And what I just really want you to start incorporating into your vocabulary as you talk about this is it's the creative process of building your career. You're not just building your career. You're not just trying to get jobs. I want you to start understanding that you're going to be in a lifelong creative relationship with the business side of your career in the same way that you're in a lifelong creative relationship with the artistic side of your career. And the more that you can start to understand, Ethan, that it's a creative endeavor, the more you're going to love it.
It already sounds more exciting.
It's way more exciting because then it's like, oh, problem, solution, problem, solution, problem, solution, problem, solution. How do I find the solution? I don't understand. Where's the solution? Wonderful, genius, inspired idea. Maybe that's the solution. Try it out. Didn't work. Problem. Genius, inspired idea. Oh, maybe that'll work. Then you try it and then boom, something starts working. And then you're like, that did it.
Yeah.
That's creativity. You are creating right? Just like you create your scene, you create your career. Yes?
I like that.
Okay,
I love
good.
it.
That sounds like so much better, right? It's like a way less torturesome than like just trying to get a job.
Sounds
right?
like playing with Play-Doh.
It is. It's like playing with Play-Doh or any artistic endeavor that you have, right? But wait, Ethan, wait. I have to interrupt you.
We interrupt your regularly scheduled program to bring you shit you didn't know about your union.
Hey guys, so we're going to have like an honest, real quick conversation about joining the union. I get emails, I get text messages, I get people contacting me all the time because their agents are telling them to stay non-union and they're not sure if that's good advice or bad advice. And what do I think? The long and short of it, you guys, is you should join the union as soon as you can. All the great work really is happening in the union world. You want to be protected by the union. It's a safety concern, and you want that union money. It's better money. So I talked to a friend of mine who waited 3 years, many years ago, before joining a union, even though she was eligible. And I asked her why she waited so long. And she said, I think it was really about being able to decide to really do it. And I needed some time to gain that confidence. And it helped me having someone who was ahead of me in their career telling me it was okay and to make the right move. That person was me, you guys, BTW. And she said, unlike my agent who was so against it, and I could never understand why. Yeah, when your agents are telling you to stay non-union, they're not looking out for you, they're looking out for them. They're playing sort of this smaller game, this sort of smaller money game, which for a lot of agents is like their niche in their market. And they know that once you go union and you start booking those union jobs, those union commercials, those union television jobs, those union film jobs, you're going to leave them. It's not the agency that you're going to be able to grow with. Anyone who's telling you to stay non-union is not an agent that is of a high caliber that's going to like make your career explode. So once you start getting these union jobs and making that union money, they know you're going to bounce. So it's not in their best interest to have you be union and start booking those union jobs and then leave them for the better agency. So they're like, no, stay non-union. And a lot of you buy it. Don't buy it. Go union, get the bigger jobs, get the better agents, get the better career, make the better money. Book it. Be union. Join it, you guys. I believe there's a pay plan option now, too, so that if the money is like a thing, contact SAG, you don't have to pay it all at once. But, we talk so much about financial planning. Start financially planning the moment you decide to be an actor in Los Angeles, New York, wherever it is. Start financially planning to pay for that union, because it's no joke, and then start paying it off. All right, you guys. Good luck. Join it.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
So let's talk a little bit about your casting, because I know that you are just like so interested. So you have 2 headshots up online that I have investigated. One looks like a little bit more commercial. It's like a blue background with like black frames.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that the first session or the second session?
Those are the most recent ones.
Those
like the
are the
ones
most
that are on
recent
my
ones.
IMDb are like my most recent.
Okay. So we'll go through them. You guys can all go on Ethan's IMDb
It's
and
ETHAN space CRENSHAW.
work. Here's what I think we have to solve, which is your casting. And one thing that you are probably not taking into consideration, because I didn't take it into consideration with my casting for a really long time, but I discovered it's a thing, is twofold. First of all, we have to address your height. Do you want to tell them how tall you are?
I'm 6'5".
He's 6'5", you guys.
Yeah.
And you're not like a big, bulky 6'5".
No, I'm like a lanky, like awkward 6'5".
Great. Love
Yeah.
it. Okay. And then you are losing your hair a little bit, which I actually love and think looks great on you. And you also, do you want to tell them about your sexual preference?
I like boys.
Okay, good.
You know?
The only reason I bring that up is it shows in some of your headshots.
Yeah.
but it shows in kind of like an awkward way that doesn't look like you're committing to it.
Yeah.
So we have to talk about that. Okay.
Yeah, totally.
Great. He's down with it, you guys.
Oh, I love it. I'm always down.
He's always down. Also, you have like nerdy, tech geeky kind of thing, but also you have this sort of, where are you from originally?
Oregon, the exotic
I was
land
totally
of Oregon.
going to say, I was like, you have some like hippie skater thing happening in you, which is really interesting.
I can go hip and I can go nerdy, a little bit
It's
of both.
great. Love both of that. Your look is a little confused.
Yeah.
So
I'm aware of that. I
I'm
don't know
sure
how
that
to
you
fix
are.
it, but I'm definitely aware of it.
Well, you're here. We're going to fix it. Because so you have a little similar casting to me where it can be a little sad.
Yeah.
It's like the sad normal person, okay?
Because like they just didn't go quite the best.
No, it's just
like there was no
just
more
a
bread this
little
morning.
Sad,
and like,
right? And so putting you in like sad clothes where your outfits are all from like JCPenney.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And your glasses are set, like you got the glasses at like CVS, like not
Totally.
even Walmart, like
yeah.
sad. And then your hair is just like, it was just a little, everything should just be like a little sad and just like, and then you're like, that's a really interesting casting for you. Particularly in phase one, because we're talking like co-stars and like getting your foot in commercially. What you're going to have to realize is that your height is going to make a really big impact in comparison to other actors on camera.
Yeah.
This is really great for commercials, particularly for what we call group scenes. You can book a ton of commercials simply because when they put you in the back, you stack the group for them
Right.
without them having to do any work.
Right.
So I have a friend, you can Google him. His name is Matthew Patrick Davis. He's 6'8". He works a lot. And he has a similar sort of lanky thing that you do, but he has also like this really adorable, boyish face. So he's an interesting thing because he's like really attractive and a boyish, cute boy,
Yeah.
but 6'8".
Yeah.
And I think what's great about you is you can go a little bit more charactery. And the height plus the charactery is going to be really
Totally.
interesting. You could also go like really interesting, like Hicksville.
Yeah.
Okay. So because you're like lanky, like tall and lanky, and I mean like stopped school when you were in the 3rd grade, like that sort of world. Have you experimented with that at all?
I haven't, no.
It would be great on you. Especially like I'm saying, these like smaller,
Right.
like credit building roles where you grow out your facial hair a little bit, but it should look sad. Like it should just like
It's
you're not
patchy. It's already
Yeah,
sad.
good. Okay, great. That's exactly
Yeah.
what I wanted to be. Like just patchy and sad, right?
Yeah.
But like you kind of think that it's cool, or you have like you're just a little dumb and stupid, or you're like dumb and think you're smart. Either way would be really great
like
on
the
you.
brothers from It's Always Sunny.
Great.
The guys that like drink milk. Do you know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about?
but I would say even more than that, I would say like more, oh brother, where art thou?
Okay.
Like
Totally.
those guys. Like if I were shooting a real scene for you, that would be something that would be really interesting, and you could book over other people, because the thing about being 6'5" is that you're automatically going to be put into the character genre. You're probably never going to play leading man unless it's about you being like different than everybody else.
Totally.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like he's different. He's 6'5".
Right.
Isn't this interesting? So a really great pilot that I hope that you read that had a great part for you is a pilot called Friends-in-Law. And the lead character is a gay best friend, and the whole joke is that he's like a giant. Like he's like 8 feet taller than the straight guy, but he's also like a bad gay. Like he's in like quote unquote in the stereotypical way, like
Right.
not a great gay.
Yeah.
And they like go into his apartment, and it's just like the saddest thing
like
ever.
he would be in an episode of Queer Eye.
Right, totally. Exactly. Right, exactly. So that's something that would be really interesting for you. Another thing to know when your natural essence is on the more effeminate side is how that tends to translate, I've noticed, on film is actually nerdy.
Yeah.
So having footage that shows you as being really nerdy.
Right.
And I think it must just because you're not like trying so hard to be like alpha machismo guy
Right.
that it translates into
Yeah, I just
Nerd
wrote
pie.
a scene that's like kind of nerdy, works at a Radio Shack kind of
Love
thing.
it. Yeah, that's
and like
great for you.
is trying to help his friend, like, you know, well, I won't ruin it.
Yes.
But
You won't. No spoilers
No,
here, you
don't steal my
guys.
ideas.
Yes, exactly. That's great for you.
yeah.
Yeah. And if we're talking about, like, you know, I say in casting, like, how much money is your casting? Like, for you, it's interesting. It's either like you don't make any money or you're like weirdly autistic genius and you make all of the money.
Yeah. That's why Silicon Valley is on my list.
I saw Silicon Valley, but it's like way over there.
Yeah.
Which it's funny. I haven't really come across a lot of people that are like that. And that's actually really great. It's a really interesting marketing tool for you.
Totally.
Okay. But it's like either way, there's kind of something wrong with you. And
Yeah.
either that works really to your advantage and you're super rich, or to your disadvantage and you can't get out of Radio Shack.
Yeah.
Okay. Love it. So let's go ahead and start with all the questions that you have for me. Let's roll through them.
Okay. So I have a couple things on my IMDb that I put up like in a hurry, you know, like uncredited like background things that like when I was doing it, I was like, oh, that'll be so cool to have on there. But now I realize that I feel like it's more of a disadvantage to have them on there.
It doesn't look like that to me. I mean, in general, because you have no reel or anything like that on your IMDb, it doesn't look like you've done much.
Yeah.
So the credits or not the credits isn't really of an issue to me. Yeah.
Because I also tried to contact them to have it removed, and like I've literally sent them like 10 emails and like no one got back to me.
You can remove it yourself, and then what often will happen is they'll put it back up, but you can remove it yourself.
Okay.
I have friends who did like I have friends who are now, you know, famous or famous-ish, who did some Friends something like 10 years ago. And the friend who did something 10 years ago is trying still to be like a producer. And so they're always trying to put that stuff back on because it makes their projects look better because said famous person was on it 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Whereas now said famous person is like trying always to get it off because it makes them look worse. But honestly, none of that matters. I mean, once you get proper auditions, proper credits, proper footage, then you're right for the part or you're not right for the part. And a couple of credits that look a little sad is really just going to look like you were starting your career, which is what you were doing.
Okay. So I think I mentioned this when we first met, was that I had, through self-submitting, been a part of this like Curb Your Enthusiasm style project.
Yes.
Where I was originally cast as like a dead body.
Okay.
But the whole show was based around this dead body, like, and it was a name actor playing 5 different people in the same apartment building, and they're all trying to figure out who and how this guy died.
Okay, funny.
And so the show creators and showrunners were Nancy Hauer and John Laird that did like 10 Items or Less, or Quick Draw on Hulu.
Yeah, sure.
And they, you know, kind of offered to have me like do some improv, and like we were filming it, and ideally had it gotten picked up ever, this was like a year ago, that I could have potentially been like a recurring.
Great. It didn't.
Nothing ever happened with it. And also like there's nothing about it on IMDb. And I always was kind of like toying with like, should I put it up there myself?
You can put it up there. Yeah. I mean, did you sign anything? No. Yeah. The only reason it's not up there is because of them. So nobody's going to be mad at you. And if they are, they'll just write you a little something and tell you to take it down.
Right.
I mean, I had somebody put me on something once and I was like, you're going to have to take that down. And then they did. And that was great.
And additionally on that, like I never took the opportunity to like hit them up again and like sort of take advantage of those relationships because they were very complimentary on set, and we're kind of like glad. They were like, we were nervous that like maybe you weren't going to be able to improv, but I've done some like groundlings and stuff. So I think I held my own, you know, and so they were like into it, you know?
Yeah.
But I never like tried to get a hold of them again. And I kind of regret that. I don't know if it's like too late now.
No, it's not too late. Not at all. Just picture yourself in their shoes. Like those of you listening, actors out there, whenever you're feeling a little insecure about reaching out to people, just literally, you're an actor. So pretend that you're them as an actor. And if you're them and this kid that you worked with who did a really good job on set and was able to improvise and, you know, impress you and have a good time with, and you were professional and all that went well. If that person reached out to you a year later, like what would you imagine would be like the worst thing that they would do is they'd be like, A note from Ethan. Blasphemy.
Blacklisted.
Yeah, blacklist him. Thou shalt not write notes to those that thou hast worked with a year ago. And they burn you and then
ceremoniously.
Ceremoniously. And
with all of the other EPs on TV.
Exactly. And they take voodoo dolls and then you have chest pains for the rest of your
Ryan
life.
Murphy just pees on the ashes on the ground.
Exactly. And that's it. You're dead.
Yeah.
You're dead.
Totally.
Right? That's not going to happen.
Okay.
Worst case scenario.
Would be a great show, though.
Would be an amazing show.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, you write a little note to them and you're like, hey, sad that project didn't make it. Just wanted to update you, doing these things, that things, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And just let them know that you're thinking about them. And depending on your personality, you can even be so far as hope you're looking for another 6'5" gay white guy to be in your thing.
That's definitely my personality.
Right. Then you can do that.
It's awkwardly ask people
Love
for
it.
things.
Yeah. And then worst case scenario is A, they're not going to get it, or B, they get it and they throw it away.
Totally.
But my experience with direct, honest, personal communication that is authentic to you is that it always goes at least well enough. That they at least always receive it, acknowledge it, and feel good about it. And sometimes they'll even, call you in.
Right. So I got my tax refund and I got a little bit of extra money than I was expecting. And so now I'm kind of curious, what I should use that money for most wisely.
Great. To be quite frank, you guys, I think you have pretty atrocious headshots.
Okay.
I think it has a little bit to do with the unclarity that we're talking about with your casting, which is something you and I can solve pretty easy. And also the quality, you just don't look professional. They look like beginner headshots. Now, you may be getting some auditions from those, and I think that's great. So if you have one that's working, I'm curious about that, but also fine with it. But also, you're auditioning for non-union stuff.
Yeah.
And if you want to be working into the union world, particularly in commercials, you need some shots that look legitimate. Then definitely I want you to be working on your reel. The good news for you, you're talking about the amount of auditions that you do or don't get. The good news is I think once we sort of nail your casting and your type and we get headshots and footage that align with what you can book, I think you're going to start lighting things on fire. I'm not worried about it at all. You can work now. You're castable now. It's like a clock, right? Where the little knob has to go into the right thing so that all the cogs start to go, oh, that is a working clock, right?
Right now, all my cogs are on break,
they're
smoking a cigarette.
Yeah, you're one over there and you're fixing this one over here. And it's does it work? I'm not sure.
What's a clock?
Yeah, but it's pretty.
Yeah, totally.
So, first of all, I want you to get shots that are conducive to your right now, what I would call co-star credits. Okay. So that's stuff that is 1 to 5 lines. The good news is for you, I don't think that casting is going to change much once you start getting the bigger roles also. I think you're probably going to be one of those character actors that gets, just like you had in that story you said, a role that is maybe smaller that then goes recurring because they realize you know what you're doing and you're nice to have on set. And then they start writing more and more from you. And as you get just even 2 or 3 of those, then that's enough momentum to start getting the bigger roles, the guest stars and the leads. Okay?
Super.
Then we can discuss how we're going to wardrobe you and target you so that you get 3 to 5 looks that really nail. Now, just know you may not nail all the looks you need to nail, so you may have to do them again. And I tell people all the time, those of you listening, it's more valuable to do it again than it is to put those shots up and then wait for a year and then realize they don't work and then do it again and then wait for a year. That's how people waste all their time. It's if you're trying for 5 looks, you only get 3, do it again and get those last 2 looks. Also know that sometimes you'll be surprised. I mean, sometimes you're we'll do this look. And then for whatever reason, that's just the shot that gets you in for every audition. I have friends who have that happen for them all the time. Okay. Then reel. When we're talking about auditions coming to you, particularly as you're looking into getting your union card and all that sort of stuff. If you guys, you have to listen to me. If you don't have a reel, you're not going to get seen theatrically. You're just not going to. And if you are, it's because you're some like magical category, which I hate to tell you, Ethan, you're not in that magical category group. Where you're really going to set yourself apart is going to be in your talent.
Right.
Your talent matching your casting. And I think that you do have a lovely attitude. You are somebody that people want to work with, have back, have around, and will be inspired to write more for. And so really showing them, I know what my product is. It's this that is going to set you apart. And at the very least, I know that not having that sets you apart in the wrong way.
Right.
Because there are guys your age who have been at it now for 10 years, but they didn't spend those 5 years partying.
Yeah.
And now they've been doing like sketch and all that sort of stuff. And so they have that footage up there, which is fine. Like I said, it's not like a monumental problem. And I just gave you this whole speech about how you're not behind. And it's because you're not. For you to then close that gap is not going to be a hard thing.
Right.
You just need to do it.
Totally.
Okay.
You know, given that like the industry is sort of all about like individuality and diversity, like I think that's something that I can really like lean into. I mean, not that I not in like a false way, because you know
the only thing about you is that you're just not as flaming as a lot of the guys are.
Yeah,
you can do it, but there are guys that's just
their shtick.
You know, I don't
know.
have to tell you, right?
Yeah.
If you did it, it's a little bit more justifiably arrogant.
Oh yeah,
Does that make sense?
Totally.
So like that's why I'm saying like a Silicon Valley genius gay,
right?
Who's like, listen,
I wrote
honey.
something the other day that was like for a reel that is like husband and wife, but they got married because he's from Canada.
Oh, right.
And like she knows he's gay, and like they're inviting this guy to like come into their relationship kind of thing. Like, do you think that would be useful?
No, only because I don't know what that show is. Like when you're shooting something, it has to look like a show that already exists. And see, part of where you guys make mistakes in creating your own reels, that's an all right scenario. But then what we have to go is, what is that scenario on a show that already exists today? So like that that is Will and Grace, and you could do something like that, but you don't have the money to do multicam, right? So you're not going to, nobody does really. Unless you're multicam, you can't do multicam, right? So then it's got to be like a single cam. So if it's a single cam, what show is that? And can you think of what show that would be? Not really, right? Yeah. Something like maybe on the Detour, but then what that is it's like, it's really like then you need Jason Jones as the lead to think that he's going into a situation different than he actually is. And you two are the Canadian couple married for green card purposes. And for whatever reason, you think Jason Jones is gay. And so you want him to come and join your threesome. You see, you have to execute it like a showrunner, not like an actor trying to create a reel. It needs to be like such a clear, smart product that when people watch it, they're like, oh, this is a show that's already on. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does.
Great. So you may not be qualified enough yet at this moment to be shaping something that way. And that's okay. This is where we're getting into like you're growing your career. I started shooting my own reel scenes like 8 years ago. And I've been doing them every 6 months, really. This is the first year that I haven't done that. Every 6 months for the last 8 years. I've just been shooting more stuff, seeing what happens. Shooting more stuff, seeing what happens. And as it got better, everyone else got better. And then it just all sort of started to get better. But where I really started to get really good representation was when my reel footage started to look like something that they could sell.
Right.
Okay.
So here's a follow-up question to that. I did just finish like a 10-minute short that I produced and wrote just for the hopes of having some footage. And I spent like, you know, just under $2,000 on it.
Okay.
And so it's like the video quality is good. The audio is good. So it's not, I mean, it doesn't look
like a wreck,
amateur.
right? Yeah,
exactly.
Great.
Say that I get like good headshots. And then do you think it would be a disservice to myself to have that footage, even if it's not necessarily the most targeted, but at least I have something?
Right. There's two schools of thought. So first of all, when you have footage up on breakdowns, if you have a reel, it automatically goes to the top. Yeah. Versus, did you know what that means?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So for you guys who maybe don't know what that means, when casting clicks on a submission for like the part of Mark. So anyone who's been submitted for Mark that doesn't have a reel, their thumbnail is at the bottom of submissions. And if you do have footage, you're on the top of the submissions. And then every time you put new footage up, it goes to the top of the top. Okay. So we had Christy Webb on, and Christy said that she didn't care the quality of the footage. What she was really looking for was to see, were you right for the role?
Right.
I think at your stage, that's true. I think probably some footage is better than no footage. But no, you don't have to have a ton of footage. And I'd rather you pick like the 30 seconds of that whole thing that's good than try to get 2 minutes in.
Right.
Okay.
Also, I did an episode of one of those crime reenactment shows on Investigation Discovery where I played a witness and I had 5 lines. It was fabulous.
Love it.
And it's very like procedural, like CSI. And the quality is good. You know? It's very like, yes, I saw that guy like in a white Bronco.
Okay.
Is that something that would be valuable to have on there?
I think for now, you're on phase 1. But wait, Ethan, wait. I have to interrupt you.
And now it's time for the new show rundown.
Hey guys, so I don't have a new TV show for you, but what I do have is an article I wanted to talk about. This is a Hollywood Reporter article that was emailed to me via my reps. It's called TV Pilot Season Confidential: 6 casting executives on hiring and paying talent in the Time's Up era. If you feel like you're a phase 2, phase 3 actor and your pilot season wasn't as exciting as you wanted it to be, I just want you to read this article. And if you're phase 1, read it anyway so you know where you're going. They really talk about what has happened in this particular pilot season, 2018, that it's gone faster than ever before. And it's really a market wherein the high caliber talent, meaning the actors, really are holding the cards. So they have the power, which means that what really was sacrificed this year was auditions. They say multiple times in this article that what went out the window this season in a way that was different from every other season before was that auditions just didn't get to happen. So what happens is all these networks are basically fighting for like the same 20 to 30 top tier people, and then like maybe a lower tier of another 20 to 50 people. And in order for them to secure that talent, what has happened this season is that the talent has said, if you want me to make your show a priority, don't have me audition. So normally that talent would maybe come in and do a producer session, or they would just go straight to testing. And that didn't happen this year. And offers have always really been a thing for pilot season, but apparently this season, more than ever, it just went so fast. It was such a grab for a particular group of people, and those people refused to audition in order to make that show a priority. So then nobody got to audition. So if you felt like you didn't audition and you should have, or you didn't test when you did a great job, whatever it is, that's the reason why. I really recommend reading this article. There's so much that it talks about as far as like salaries and some California quote law and all this stuff that's coming around. So give it a read. It's on the show notes. You're really going to like it.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
You kind of answered a few of them, like, should I feel behind?
No, you shouldn't. You're really not. I mean, here's the thing, like, it really does go in cycles. That's what you'll realize. And one thing that I was told when I was your age, because I felt just so bad because I just was not working in the degree that I felt that I should. And I had people that I felt like were working a lot, and I felt really behind. And my teachers said to me, once your casting and your essence and your face all start to match each other, they were like, you're going to pass everyone by on the freeway. And that was the visual image. It was like everyone else is going and you're just sort of like lagging behind. And they're all sort of going like 60 miles per hour at a steady pace. And you're just going to go from like 20 miles per hour to like 180. Yeah. And they're all just going to look at you and be like, what? Yeah. What happened? And a lot of that is true. I mean, I think, and not only that, a lot of the people who are sort of going steady and sort of kicking butt and taking names for such a long time, you know, they've quit.
Yeah.
They've quit because once it became hard for them, they couldn't take that rejection. And I had rejection on the upfront, on the front end of all that.
Same.
Right. So taking the rejection on the front end, now not having rejection, it's like, what?
Yeah.
Like sometimes when they give me offers, I'm like, really? They're going to give me that? That's awesome. So that's
totally.
my expectation is so like, wow, magical wonders.
I definitely had a lot of friends in college that, I went to college in LA, and I had so many people that graduated and then were just kind of like, they had a good time in college and they like got a lot of leads and stuff, but then didn't quite get an agent right away, and like, went on a couple theatrical like theater auditions and like didn't book stuff, and so then they were like, okay, back to Idaho.
Totally. But also then they should, because it's like, this is hard. That's always the way. I mean, I have been meeting with people over the last several weeks about pilot season. And there is still no rhyme or reason to it. I mean, I have friends that I feel like they should be going out for every pilot known to man. They should be going out 5 times a day for every incredible pilot. And they're going out like twice.
Right.
And then I have friends that I feel like, you probably have a couple more years of building. And they're like going out all the time. And it just doesn't seem to ever make sense. And you just have to be really continually interested in your own creative journey and look at it as a creative process and not as like a point A to point B process, but like a continual unfolding called this is your life.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking, I'm studying at the Beverly Hills Playhouse, and which I love. It's fantastic.
Great.
I know that you studied there for a long time, and then, for whatever reason, you don't now.
Yes.
So I'm just curious, like, if you want to share some of your feelings about, like, how long is it a good idea to stay in something like that? Because, there are definitely people who have been there for, like, decades, and that seems to be, like, fulfilling for them, you know?
Yeah. I will say that I think that is a very personal choice, and I would say, generally speaking, the people who are excited to bounce out of a serious training program are the ones that should stay in. And the people who are like, please, God, I never want to leave this class, are the people who should probably bounce out.
Yeah. Because I've been there for about 7 months now.
Yeah, I would.
And I could just see it going on forever. Like, I love it.
I feel strongly that a really good time to get out of class, and this is basically what happened to me, is when you're so busy that you can't be in class anymore. And sort of what had happened to me is, particularly in my last several years in this particular school, just so you guys know, is what's great about it is it's very training heavy hours wise. You're in class for lots of hours, and the training that's required of you outside of class is not small. And so what that then equals in a really great environment for study is people who take it very seriously. And the people who stay in are really usually like really actors who are in it. Like, they're not people who are like kind of floating and like, I just want to be in it. They're like real actors, and that is really intoxicating and delicious to be around. And so what happened for me is, I would say my last, really it became a time thing. For my last several years at that school, I was single. And at that time I was still waiting tables. I was single, and I was doing like class, and I was then pursuing my career.
This sounds like my life.
Okay, good. So that was me. So waiting tables, I was waiting tables 5 days a week. I wasn't waiting tables on the nights that I had class. And then otherwise I was spending my time pursuing the pursuit of the career and working on the craft of my career.
Right.
Okay. Then I hit a point where I started seeing Jesse. We were soups in love, you guys. And I was
cute.
Super cute.
You guys are adorable.
We're super adorable.
He made me coffee.
Okay, good. He did make you coffee. I said to, my teachers at the time, I said, I have to have time for like the person that I love. And so something has to go. And what can't go is my job. I have to have my job still, and I can't let go of the pursuit of my acting career because I have to have that still.
Right.
But I have to have like some hours to spend with the person that I love and nurture a relationship, because it takes time.
Yeah.
And what really had to go was the acting class. But I will say about that that then I was still taking classes, but they were more strategically targeted. And also, I will say that for me, it is very important for those of you listening to know, and you'll hear when I do my episode with Alan Barton, who runs the studio and school, that I had been acting since I was 7. I had gotten my BFA for 4 years already at a top conservatory school. I had already lived in New York and opened up a theater company and, studied and all that in New York. And then I had already put in several years of intensive training, both at the Beverly Hills Playhouse. I had done improv class. Like when I left, it was like time for Audrey to sort of evolve into something else. But that was really my journey. I definitely know people that left too early. And they can't get to that next level because they don't have the skill.
Yeah.
When you start auditioning for big things, for big opportunities, the people who are usually, particularly for your category, the people who are auditioning against you are going to be ninjas. And like a good way to ask yourself, like, am I ready to quit studying is like, take the actor that you know that you think is like the best at whatever level. Are you as good as them? If you had to audition with them, if you had to play with them in something, can you hold your own? And for some of you, you can audition and hold your own, but then once you fall on set, you're going to fall apart. And for some of you on set, you're going to crush, you're going to have no problem, but getting the audition and not falling apart is where you're going to like lose it. That's where study and skill really becomes important. And the timing thing is really hard to figure out because a lot of people want to just get to it a little earlier than they should, and then they realize that they don't have the skill that they need to continue to compete. And then a lot of people realize that they are really competitive, but then don't have their resume because they haven't been putting their time into the career building to compete on a resume level to even get into those rooms.
Yeah.
At a certain point, I had to decide for me, and this is not a knock on anyone else who makes any other decision, but for me, that I had a tendency to be a good girl and be in good girl student mentality. And I needed to be in professional mentality, but it cost me something to do that. So that's how I know that like it felt uncomfortable for me to do that. So that to me was the sign like I needed to do that.
Right.
If the thought of like leaving class that you've been in for a long time makes you feel uncomfortable, then it's probably time to leave. If the thought of staying in class for a little bit longer makes you uncomfortable, then maybe you should stay. Yeah. There's not a ton of actors that I feel like, man, I don't think I could act them. There's like a few that I know personally that I'm like, I don't know, like they're really good. And even then I'm like, probably. Yeah. But I'm not like,
if I wake up at 6 instead of 6:30.
Exactly. Like probably. But there's stuff that I have to work the kinks out. I mean, I had a series regular audition and I did not stick the landing. And that's not good because everyone else in that room stuck the landing. Is it a talent thing? No. Is it a skill thing? Yes. Is it an audition skill thing of that caliber? Yes. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I hate asking for like validation for feelings because, I think that feelings are great.
Listen, I love feelings.
Right? I'm all about feelings. Let's be real.
I'm an actor. I feel my way around.
I've got a backpack full of them.
That's right.
But like, did you, as someone who I can sort of like aspire toward,
Great.
Did you feel as though like, the whole theatrical game like was just so far away, like light years away?
Yeah, I definitely felt that way. And what was particularly frustrating to me was I felt that my talent was like, no problem, I could be there.
Yeah.
But my ability to get into whatever magical fucking room that was. I mean, I talked to a really good friend of mine, shout out to Mary Holland, and she and I used to work at a restaurant together, and now she's just like crushing it. And we were talking about how once you start getting in the door, it's almost more like they leave the door open and you're like, is that for me?
Yeah.
Am I supposed to go in that door? Is that where I go? And then by the time you get in, you're like, oh, hey. And then once you're in the room, you
Yeah.
feel like it's yours. You're supposed to be there. It's great. But definitely like, it's like they just kind of leave it open. And you're just like in awe
Yeah.
that finally happened. I think that feeling like you're in a desert wasteland with no water anywhere around you, scared for your life,
Yeah.
is correct for the first several years.
Right.
Because you're mathematically, you're a smart guy. So mathematically, you're in a career with a 97% unemployment rate,
Right.
mathematically speaking. And the only way that you really get out of that for most people is really just hard work, overtime equals connections,
Right.
equals resume, equals footage, equals better representation, equals better connections, equals more resume, equals better footage, equals better connection. You know, it's just a spiral. Also, like lifestyle wise, I mean, this is the time to be focused and a little bit neurotic about your career. And then once you feel like you've got that a little bit, then you'll probably start opening yourself up a little bit more romantically. And then once you have that, then you feel a little bit more safe. And as you feel a little bit more safe, you get a little bit more relaxed about your career. Because right now, like your career is like validating your existence, right? Like that happens at that time where your career is just like, I am special. And so what you're looking for each job to do is to be like, you're not wasting your life and existence on planet Earth. You are valuable.
Yeah.
And you just will get a little bit more evidence of that. And I can say, like, you're doing better than I was when I was your age. So just to, like, calm you down a little bit. I definitely did not have that many auditions in 6 months. Like, that's a pretty high number. And I think you have a really great type. It's just going to be for you ninjaing through really trial and error, which is, again, the creative process. Does this zone work for me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Does that zone work for you? And, you know, it may even surprise you. Listen, nobody ever that I could talk to many people. Nobody that was talking to me was ever like, Audrey, your casting is a weird girl with cats. Like, just, that's not who I am, like, seem to be in real life. That's not like a thing. But when you watch my comedy reel, you're like, she is single for life with lots of animals.
Yeah.
And weird animals.
I think that's one thing that's very hard for people, and I include myself in that generalization, like to differentiate like who you are in IRL, you know, versus who you are in like the biz.
Yes. And for some people, that's actually very clear.
Yeah.
And that's usually a lot of those people who seem to pop right away.
Right.
It's because they blend. But for a lot of us, we're just a little bit more dimensional than what you write on the page. And what you're trying to do in the beginning of your career is trying to make yourself as two-dimensional as a character is written, when actually what gives it life is bringing somebody as interesting and dimensional as you are. But so often you're given 3 lines and they're really not looking for any dimension right now. They're looking for something that is just like clear and fast.
Right.
And all the while also who you are IRL and also in show business is changing, because you're changing and you're growing up and you're losing your hair or you're losing weight or, you know, whatever is happening. And shit happens, you guys, you know, like then real shit happens that changes your life. Like my brother died, you know, like that's real shit. And that I'm now forever changed from that experience. And that affects my casting, and it's going to affect certain things that I do in a way that is going to give me an advantage in some rooms and a disadvantage in other rooms, because it's an internal experience that happened that's changed me internally. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Some people get fucking autoimmune diseases, and then that changes your casting. Like things happen. I went like super dark, you guys. I didn't mean it to.
Oh, I
but
love it. Told you,
I
feelings.
did too. Yeah, feelings. Okay. Quick questions, unless you have any more.
I don't think so.
Okay. Why acting?
Are there other jobs?
No,
you know?
I don't think so.
No.
I mean, hopefully not.
Right?
If there are, I don't want to know about them.
No.
Okay, good. What's the best part about the business for you?
The craft. It's just so much fun.
It is.
You know, building a character and like becoming someone is just like so fulfilling to me.
I agree.
I can't imagine, you know, being fulfilled by anything else.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. And what's the worst part about the business for you?
The confusion, you know, just Yeah, I wish there was like a celebrity home map, that they would hand out and be like, this is the path to go.
Well, that's really what I'm trying to do in the podcast is what I tell people is I'm not even trying to give them a map of like directions. I'm just trying to give them a map.
Yeah, exactly.
Like this is like free theater land over here.
Yeah.
And then this is like commercial nationals over there.
Yeah.
And then this is like Co-Star Village.
Right.
And this is like Series Regular World. And this is Independent Film Zone.
Yeah.
And it's like, so at least you know.
It's like I showed up for college and like the tour guide left without me.
No,
and I'm just
100%.
like, oh God, what do I do?
100%. And
every sign is in like a different language.
totally. And just know that what's happening in like a generational sense is that, our generation is like, has the benefit of connecting each other with information. And it used to just be that you didn't.
Right.
And so people didn't have the ability to share information as easily or as readily about what's going on. And I can't really fathom why it is that I didn't have something like this for myself to listen to, even like 5 years ago. Like I can't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like
it seems crazy to me.
It's really surprising.
And I just think but that's always the way, right? And so I think it's going to get better. And also, the people who benefit from actors not knowing anything are the people who pay us. And the less that we know, the more easily they can take advantage of us. And so that's not just true for our career, that's true for all careers. And that's part of why, particularly as the world and the communities become freelance communities as opposed to corporate communities, is it's easier to take advantage of freelance people when they are not talking to each other.
Right.
But so long as they are unified in, say, a union, but the people within that union are talking to each other, then we actually have grounds to know what we should expect or not expect.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Great. What do you wish somebody had taught you or managed to get you to understand when you were just a wee babe entering this business?
So, yeah, and I thought about this. I wish that someone had told me that don't expect anything, have no expectations so that, you're not surprised when it doesn't go the way you thought it would.
I have to tell you, like, if anyone can learn that, it still shocks me. Like, I don't know why, but it's the worst. To this day, I still do things and I think like it will go like this, and then it doesn't. And I'm always like, why?
Yeah.
I should know by now. It never goes.
Yeah.
It never goes like this.
Like have goals, obviously. Like have goals, have like dream boards covering every wall and ceiling and floor in your house. But like just the expectation is something that I think sets a lot of us up for disappointment.
Yes, I agree.
That's discouraging.
Well, and that's part of also why I had this podcast is I just want everyone to feel a little bit more camaraderie in all of it. Like that you're not doing things wrong, that you're not behind, that there is a map. And here's what's also interesting and also terrifying about this business is that like I make this map for people, but even as I make it, it's moving because this is a fluid industry and a fluid business.
And an interesting time.
In a very interesting time. Things are moving and shifting at such a rapid pace that's part of why it really takes you being so heavily involved is because it's moving.
Yeah.
Social media plug?
Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, all at Spaghetti Hose.
Yay.
1 T in spaghetti.
Why don't you spell it for them?
It's @ SPAGHETIHOES.
At Spaghetti Hose, you guys. 1 T. Mildly interesting.
Mildly interesting.
Yes.
I'm not going to give you that blank stare like you
Okay,
said some people do.
everyone else does.
So I definitely plan for this.
He's ready.
My mildly interesting is Search Party on TBS.
Oh, I don't know about this.
Fabulous.
Oh,
like
good.
It's everything. It's like a comedic, dramatic murder mystery.
Love it.
It's so good.
Oh, I'm
and like
so
that's
excited.
definitely on my list of targeted shows. But just watch it. It's like so unique and lovely.
How cool.
Yeah.
My mildly interesting, you guys, the new rehash of Will and Grace is so good, you guys.
Yeah.
I am like, it's so good that when I watch it, I'm like delighted. I pause it regularly and I yell out to Jesse. I'm like, Jesse, the writing is so good.
It's great.
It's so
And I like that they,
good.
they evolved with the characters'
Totally.
ages, but it's still like pinpointed to like their audience, you know.
Yes. And also
they all look so good, right?
They look so good. I mean, whatever.
They all look so good.
Whatever. They've got the Hollywood money. You can do magic on Hollywood money. Not only that, but in addition to the writing being good, here's what I really love about it, you guys, is they are doing like old school, classic, farcical comedy. And they're doing like, I mean, just the classic, like noises off.
Yeah.
Very I Love Lucy.
Yeah.
Just like classic beats and jokes that are familiar to you, but they're executing them so geniusly. And it's so funny, you guys, because it's so good that I was reading all the pilots this season. And when I read them, all of them, there were like so many multicam. And for the last 4 years, there's been like 3 multicam and then like 20,000 single cam half hours. And this year there was like 5 single cam and then like 20 multicam. And I was like, what is happening? Like, why is everyone shooting for multicam? But I was behind on my Will and Grace. I had like was behind like 6 episodes because of pilot season. And then I watched them all like 2 days ago, and I was like, oh, so that's why they're all trying to tap in to that again.
Because people still love that. You know,
it's
like
magic.
We love the like reality style, like super close to your face, like see the sweat on your brow. But like we also love the like ridiculousness of a multicam.
Well, you know what we love more than anything is we love a cast that has chemistry.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's a 1 hour drama, if it's a half hour single camera or a half hour multicam. And it's so interesting. They're all trying to solve it by these genres, but it has nothing to do with genre. It's that the cast and the writers have a chemistry and an understanding that makes it sing to your heart.
And that's why some of those reboots do so well, you know?
Because you've already got them.
Fuller House, or like I'm like so legit excited for Roseanne to come back.
Oh, I'm so excited!
And like both Beckys are in it.
Oh, I know.
Right? Is that Becky the blonde one?
Yeah, both Beckys are in it.
Both Beckys are in it somehow.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited about it. So Becky number 2, replacement Becky,
Sarah Chalk,
comes back as Becky as like a rich woman in town who wants to hire, I think, Becky number 1 to be her baby's surrogate, to be the surrogate to her baby. That's what I'm saying.
That's so great.
I'm super about it, you guys. Okay, any final questions or words before we go?
You know, keep doing what you're doing. I like greatly appreciate this.
Good,
it's
thanks.
you know, I don't think people realize that this takes you so much time, I'm sure. And you know, and also for you to know that it like truly makes a difference for those of us who feel like we're swimming, you know, upstream.
Yes. I do know about the swimming upstream. Yeah. Okay, good. Well, thank you so much, Ethan.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And most importantly, you guys, don't forget your towel. Next week on Audrey Helps Actors, we talk to a teacher of mine. I was going to say an old teacher of mine, but I don't want to make it sound like he's old. I mean, that's relative, you guys. And he gets very sensitive when I call him old. So a past teacher of mine, Alan Barton, he is the executive director and part owner of the Beverly Hills Playhouse. I studied with Alan for a really long time, and he is a protege of Milton Katselas, who I talk about a lot on this podcast. And we discuss so many things. He has such great insights on the actor, the actor's journey, you know, various types of study. He particularly teaches scene study at the Beverly Hills Playhouse. We discuss the merit and value of that type of study over other types of study. And I really recommend it. Give it a listen. We talk a lot about the kind of critiques that really shaped me and how I viewed training. And, you know, there's a real attitude problem, I would say, particularly I can speak in Los Angeles, about continued training and education. And as you heard in this episode with Ethan, it's a very personal decision to decide whether or not you're going to continue to train somewhere in a particular style. So give it a listen. I think we talk very honestly and in depth about the value of training and that particular kind of training. Special thanks to Ethan Crenshaw. Ethan, I just love you, boo. You're so sweet. And I am so excited about your career. And just so you know, when Jesse was editing this episode, he said to me, yeah, you're totally right about Ethan. Like, you listen to this episode and you're like, nobody's worried about Ethan. He's going to work. He just has to stay the course. He's going to have a great career. So there. From Jesse's mouth to God's ears. Don't forget your towel. Ta-da! This show is produced and edited by Jesse Lumen. Oh, he's so handsome. Special thanks to Thomas Snodgrass for the mic assistance here and there. He's so generous with his mic. It's good to have your sound guy across the street, you guys. And thanks to Aalok Mehta for some help with the theme song. Music this week and every week by Ari De Niro. And most importantly, don't forget your towel.